I think that since some of the people who are going to be talking, including the chair himself, were students of the scholar in Assyriology, Professor Chaim Tadmor, we could have called this session Assyria. Announced we'll give the first lecture is Professor Aren Maeir, Professor of Archaeology at Bar-Ilan University, Director of the Tel Safi Gat Archaeological Project, and the present expert in lighting bonfires that have still not been seen at Azeka.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very, very pleased that we managed to put together this session and that I can present in it. And I'm in this session going to try to talk about something very, very simple. And I would say it's old-fashioned research is good. And it's time to stick to that. The Assyrians in the West. This is one of the I would say, the best documented periods and phenomena that we have in the ancient world. It's well known from a wide variety of documentary sources, whether biblical, extra-biblical, a wide range of archaeological remains. It's extraordinarily important, as anybody knows who's dealt with the Iron Age too, for the history and understanding the culture of ancient Israel. And I would say in general, I mean, if you look at the pre-classical periods in the ancient Near East, this is perhaps one of the best known periods that we have. And a lot has been written about this, and a lot of the impetus of early biblical research, early biblical ancient Near East studies, lies within the realm of Assyriology and the New Assyrian Empire and its impact on the Levant. And every once in a while, we get a flourishing of new ideas that hit the research. And let's start with this. Original thinking is important. It moves ahead our field. And when you have things that challenge previous conceptions, it's important for us. But new theories have to be based on an in-depth knowledge of the relevant data. And recently, we've seen a bunch of new theories that have come out relating to the New Assyrian impact in the West. And some are new ideas which deal with the available data with new interpretations, but still within the realm of the what's known. And others, and I'll be focusing on a specific one, go into sort of like this zone in which a new theory is propounded with no relationship to an in-depth knowledge of the Assyriological and the archaeological data to produce something which is very nice if you don't know anything about Iron Age history and culture, but otherwise it's unacceptable. Now, I want to bring a few examples of some of the new ideas that have come out, which are within the parameters of what you can debate. And for example, well-known discussion over who's responsible for the large Iron Age olive oil production facilities that we see at Ekron in the late Iron Age. The excavators led by Sai Gittin suggested that it's to be connected to the Neo-Assyrian Empire, and in more recent years, a debate has developed between Sai Gittin and Larry Steger and Nadav Ne'eman and a couple of others, of whether perhaps the Egyptians are those who are in fact in charge of this and the cause of it in the late 7th rather than the early part of the 7th century. Another example is various scholars who want to stress the important impact that the Egyptians of the Saite period have in the southern Levant in the 7th century, and various people have connected things going on at Ashkelon, Mitzad Cheshavyau, Ekron, and other things in relation to this aspect. And another more recent example is also the discussion of the Ramat Rachel Palace, who Nadav Ne'eman, and then for a while also Oded Lifshitz suggested that the Ramat Rachel Palace is not a Judite palace, but rather an Assyrian palace. And subsequent to his excavations, Oded Lifshitz changes a little and and suggested that it's a Judite palace, but it's built under the auspices and under the influence of the various imperial powers throughout the various periods, Assyrian, Babylonian, Persian, Hellenistic, as sort of like a place where materials are brought and then sent out to the various imperial powers. Now, these are all examples of theories which we can debate, and we can agree and we cannot agree, but they're within the parameters of the material evidence that we have and the historical evidence. What I'm going to discuss extensively is this article by Avi Faust, which appeared in Jesho 2 years ago, in which Avi brings forth a completely new understanding, in his opinion, of the interests of the Assyrian Empire in the West, and tries to turn the whole thing upside down and suggest a completely new vision. Now, so you can say, what do I care? Why should I spend a lecture, 20 minutes, and 20 minutes of your precious time talking about an article which I don't agree with? A couple of reasons. First of all, I think methodologically, an article, a study, which professes a new theory, questioning of the consensus, but ignores a large body of data, is problematic. This is from someone who's a prolific and original thinking scholar who has made important contributions to the field and has broad influence in the field. This, I think, is something that should serve as a warning light that you have to make careful that original ideas don't foreshadow careful and thorough research. And finally, 2 points. If something like this gets through in a prestigious journal, something's wrong with the process that we're going through. And third, and finally, I've spent 17 of the 17 last years of my life dealing with Philistia, studying Philistia from every single aspect that I can, multidisciplinary, trying to move ahead things in a way that we relate this to up-to-date research. And what we see here, in my opinion, is an enormous step backwards in our understanding. Now, I'm going to go one by one and discuss them. Let's start with a review of his claims. Faust claims that olive oil production was known in the Iron Tube before 7th century Ekron in large scales, only at some sites in the Israelite Northern Kingdom, and this we can see there, ending with the destruction of Samaria. Only later, come sit down. Only later do we see large-scale olive production in Judah and Philistia. Another important point, the shvela is inappropriate for olive oil production, that you can't grow olives in an extensive manner in this region, and thus there would not be a tradition of the production of olive oil in any manner, significant manner, in the shvela, unless there was absolutely no other option. And when it does develop in the south, this is only after the collapse of the northern industry, and perhaps also with the help of experts who escaped from the kingdom with the destruction of Samaria and had to find a place to bring their expertise. Going on, this is already wider. According to Faust, Assyrians were not interested in expanding the economy of conquered regions. Rather, they simply wished to suck them dry of their wealth and of their prestige items. He claims one cannot view the Assyrian demand for tribute and taxes as an incentive to expand the economies of conquered regions, or in his words, but viewing this as an incentive to the economy is a dubious perspective. This is like comparing Assyria to a bully who comes to prospering stores demanding protection money. The large sums this bully takes forces the owners to work harder in order to be still profitable and to maintain their standard of living, and it is possible as a result that they will have to look for new customers. But can we credit the bully for the development of the economy? Another claim, Assyrians behaved in conquered regions in a manner similar to the Babylonians, basically a scorched earth policy. Philistia, another thing, Philistia and Phoenicia were not annexed to and did not become provinces of the Assyrian Empire. In Faust's words, they, and I'm saying they being the Assyrians, did not waste time, money, and effort in order to maximize their profit, and did not invest in their conquered regions. And the economic development of both Philistia and Phoenicia were aimed at the west, towards the Mediterranean, as an independent venture, not depending on or forced upon by the Assyrian Empire. And in the bottom line, and to summarize it, prosperity in the southern Levant was always outside of the borders of the Assyrian Empire. And whenever a new prospering region was conquered, prosperity ceased. In some cases, it moved farther away, but it always remained outside the empire's border. The economies of Phoenicia, Philistia, and Judah prospered during the 7th century BCE, not due to Assyria, but in spite of it. And that's his summary. The question is, does this hold water? And I'm going to demonstrate, and I'm not going to take all the points, I'm going to demonstrate a bunch of them, that one by one, when you examine central facets of his argument, they simply don't fit in. And most unfortunately, this is due to a large body of research that we know of. I'm going to focus mainly on the archaeological data, but also on a bit on the textual. Mass production in Israel. The sites that he quotes are surveyed or partially excavated sites, and none of the such data exists from the major sites in the Northern Kingdom. The dating of these sites is unclear because it's from survey. It's not, we can't say for sure exactly when they are. We can't say for sure that they're simultaneously. And there is no other evidence in any manner that the Northern Kingdom played a major role in interregional trade, let alone in olive oil. So this is not a major producer of olive oil that is exporting out quantities of olive oil and other products to the late Iron Age world. And some of the sites that Faust notes as Iron Age production may have belonged to other polities, such as Rosh Zayit, Shikmona, Tel Hadid, may not be relevant for the discussion as a whole. Now, as far as olive crops and the production of olive oil have been known in the Shfela and in the coastal plain from prehistoric times onwards. Olive production is known in the Philistia and the Shfela from way before the 7th century. We have examples from Tel Asafi at the 11th and 10th century, similar at nearby Tel Harasim. We see it again in the 9th century at Tel Asafi, and at Tel Birt Misim and Bet Shemesh in the 8th century, we see it as well. There's no reason to assume that only after 722 did this knowledge percolate to the south. The only thing we can say is that in the 7th century, for some reason, Ekron expanded this phenomenon. And here's examples of a 10th or 11th century olive oil production facility at Tel Asafi. We have at least 2, if not 3 others at the site. There's other comparable ones at other sites. And here's a 9th century olive oil installation from our Hazael destruction level. We see at least another one on surface on another part of the site. And add to this, we have enormous amounts of vessels with what seems to be olive oil residue throughout the Iron Age at Tel Asafi. Now, was Assyria invested in evolving Philistia? From the second half of the 8th century, and most of you know this, Assyrian military campaigns to Philistia and subsequently to Egypt. And then their actual physical presence in Philistia is without question. The campaigns in the 8th century, I'm not even going to read them out. We all know them. In the 7th century, we all know them. There's no reason to assume that there's no Assyrian involvement, intensive and ongoing. We know of many, many sites in which there's direct and unambiguous evidence of the Assyrian presence. And this includes not only objects which are traded, but we have architecture, texts, and other aspects which tell us clearly that there's a physical presence of Assyrians in Philistia and in Phoenicia. We'll get to that in a moment. Just mentioning Gezer, Hadid, a palace at Ashdod West recently, Tel Jemmeh, where there's clear evidence of a caravan city, and we can see this from the zooarchaeological remains, that this is a city where materials are taken from the Arabia, brought to Jemmeh, and passed out westwards. These are areas which are under the control of the Assyrians. This is not something done from afar without any without any intense involvement. And of course, the numerous fortresses that have been reported in Philistia and the northwest Negev at this time. And here are just examples of some of the finds. The Rishon LeZion fort, found not too long ago, the Ashdod West Palace, the Tel Jeme Assyrian architecture, which all of us know, the Tel Serer bronze, a Tel Hadid Assyrian text. It talks without, it shouts rather. And again, what was the level of Assyrian control in Phoenicia? Avi Faust claims that they weren't involved. They didn't turn it into. We know for a fact that portions of Phoenicia, both in the north and the south, were turned into Assyrian provinces. The other parts were over strict Assyrian overlordship. They founded a Karum there. It simply cannot be argued. Several campaigns to Phoenicia. Again, I'm not going to even mention them. And we know from, for example, Esarhaddon's treaty with Baal, that the Assyrians demand access to the Philistine coast, and they have a clear control of what is going on there. You can't talk about lack of involvement. And I think, can you claim a lack? Clearly not. If anything, as we go along with time, this involvement only becomes more and more intense, more and more involved, more and more something that is a very, very specific part of the Assyrian plan, and this is to control trade and to control and open the path to Egypt. Now, what about the documentary evidence? We have extraordinary large amounts of documentary evidence of many genres, from public, royal, private, etc., which relate to the southern Levant and can be used in comparison when we look at other regions under Assyrian control. To make a claim that that was made in that article is simply ignoring this data. You can't do this based on a gut feeling and a nice idea. We have comparisons from other regions. For example, the work done in Anatolia by Parker and others, which give us a very good parallel to what's going on in Levant. And anybody who has dealt with the Assyrian Empire and comparing it to the Babylonian Empire knows that these are two different creatures. They act differently, they have different policy. To say that Mesopotamian empires acted the same is like to say European empires, such as the Bonaparte and Hitler, had a similar policy. It's ludicrous. Summary. No justification to remove the Assyrians from the economic and geopolitical picture of late Philistia and Phoenicia. Massive Assyrian political, military, and economic involvement is without a doubt. While you can argue, for example, who caused the Ekron industry, that still does not remove the Assyrians from the West. There's no evidence of Northern Israelite Kingdom was a major producer and exporter of olive oil. And perhaps this might be seen as an attempt to give the Israelite Kingdom a bask of glory at its what it was or was not. And the Assyrians did not systematically destroy all regions which they captured. Some were extensively utilized for economic and strategic reasons. Others were clearly utilized for the economic and strategic benefits. And one cannot simply brush off the ongoing Assyrian imperial grand strategy, if we use Luttwak's term from other periods. There was a clear method in which they were doing here. It has an impact in the archaeology. It has an impact on the text. And I'm sorry, although I do like new ideas, this one has passed. Thank you very much.